Well, that was EMAS 2025. Honor and privilege to be here. I really learned a lot. I think we identified a lot of gaps still in the industry, especially from evidence-based data coming from researchers that might not be as accurate as we would like it to be, and is causing a lot of confusion to us, the peri or menopause or andropause individuals in the world. But beyond that, there's definitely an upstream issue, as was identified at the Congress, on how little hormone education exists at a university level. I was joined by Dr. Ana Jurado, sexologist and physician from Spain, whose EMAS 2025 research on testosterone and menopause revealed something crucial. The biggest barrier to women's sexual health isn't medical, it's cultural. We're diving deep into the stigma that's keeping silent about their menopause experience and what we can do to change it. This is what she had to share.
Algo que tocamos y vi tu pasión inmediatamente fue el tema social, de que sentimos muchas mujeres que estamos entrando el tema por el mundo de perimenopausia y menopausia y no nos sentimos escuchadas, con doctores sabiendo que tenemos síntomas, sabiendo que estamos sufriendo en casa. ¿Qué está pasando y qué podemos hacer?
Bueno, ya sabemos que el envejecimiento trata mucho peor a las mujeres que a los hombres. Las mujeres, conforme vamos envejeciendo, vamos perdiendo valor social. Y esto ha pasado así hasta este mismo momento. La menopausia ha sido un recurso más para desvalorizar a las mujeres. Y a partir de ahí se les ha empezado ya oficialmente a desvalorizar cuando llegan a la menopausia. En este momento que somos más mujeres y dentro de poco que vamos a ser más mujeres en la posmenopausia que en la premenopausia por el envejecimiento de la población, evidentemente el discurso tiene que cambiar. Y yo creo que desde la Asociación Española para el Estudio de la Menopausia estamos haciendo todo lo posible por quitar el estigma de la menopausia y por tratar este periodo de la vida de la mujer como eso, como un periodo en el que el cuerpo de la mujer trabaja de forma distinta, pero no por ello peor, y en el que la posición social de la mujer es diferente, porque ya no tiene capacidad reproductiva, pero no por ello peor.
¿Cómo podemos hacer nosotras, las mujeres que estamos navegando este periodo, cuando vamos a un doctor, de pronto un doctor de medicina general, que no nos refiere a un ginecólogo, a un endocrino, no nos creen? ¿Qué podemos hacer?
Bueno, no es que no nos crean. El tema de la menopausia ha sido estigmatizado durante mucho tiempo por la sociedad y también esto ha afectado a los planes de estudio. De hecho, la menopausia no ha sido incluida en los planes de estudio de las profesiones sanitarias hasta, recientemente. Incluso hay planes de estudios donde todavía no está incluida. El estudio de la menopausia, lo mismo que el estudio de todos los procesos de los cuerpos de las mujeres, está siendo algo totalmente moderno de ahora. Llevamos muchísimo tiempo estudiando e investigando sobre el cuerpo del hombre y no sobre el cuerpo de las mujeres. Con lo cual, también los médicos, médicas y otro tipo de personal sanitario llevan un retraso, lo mismo que la sociedad, en el reconocimiento de estos procesos, en la investigación, en el estudio y en el conocimiento sobre estos procesos. Es cierto que cada día hay más profesionales que tienen en cuenta las diferencias que hay entre el cuerpo de las mujeres y el cuerpo de los hombres, que se interesan más por saber acerca del ciclo menstrual, de procesos como la endometriosis y también de procesos como la menopausia. Y lo más importante es eso, que estemos contribuyendo a cambiar el relato. Estos procesos nos hacen diferentes, no peores ni menos.
We understood from many clinicians and practitioners that there is still some reluctancy from women who are feeling their symptoms on perimenopause and or postmenopause. What is really required when it comes to hormonal replacement therapy? We understand from the key findings that were shared at the conference, especially from the WHI study follow-up, that the 18-year follow-up data shown from this study on Women's Health Initiative reveal no increased risk of cardiovascular or cancer mortality amongst HRT users, which is a complete paradigm shift for women who are doubtful about the benefits of hormonal replacement. There were some insights shared progesterone being a hormonal replacement therapy, which is sufficient for some women entering. Personally, I take progesterone and I even show my little progesterone box to one of the practitioners. The question is really about whether you use progesterone or not. It's really about looking at a natural way of taking progesterone to minimize any risk. One of the most groundbreaking presentations came from Dr. Blanca Campos-Trini from Argentina, who revealed something that completely changes how we understand menopause. It's not just about hot flashes and mood swings as the world thinks it is. It's about your gut health being fundamentally transformed during this transition. Dr. Campos-Trini research revealed that after menopause, your gut literally loses its ability to repair itself effectively. The protective barrier becomes compromised, leading to increased microbial translocation. Big words. Essentially, harmful bacteria can more easily cross into your bloodstream. Crazy. But here where it gets really interesting. Those common menopause comorbidities we've normalized, obesity, osteoporosis, depression, even the increased risk of autoimmune diseases, they're all connected to these gut microbiome changes. Dr. Campos-Trini's research demonstrated that hormone therapy could actually restore the microbiome to some degree. We're not just treating symptoms, we are potentially restoring the fundamental bacterial ecosystem that supports women's entire health. As someone diagnosed with ADHD at 42, I've experienced firsthand how neurodivergent brains can have heightened sensitivities to hormonal replacement therapy. So I did what any good researcher does. I asked the experts at EMAS 2025. I approached multiple clinicians and researchers at the conference asking about studies that corroborate the anecdotal data we're seeing about neurodivergent brains and HRT sensitivities. The response was unanimous and frankly shocking. There are virtually no studies in this area as far as we know. We have millions of neurodivergent women going through perimenopause and menopause, many of us reporting unique responses to hormone therapy, and the research simply doesn't exist. If you think about it, we know that ADHD, autism, and other neurodivergent conditions affect how our brains process everything from sensory input to medications. We know that hormones profoundly impact neurotransmitters' functions. Yet, when it comes to understanding how HRT affects neurodivergent brains specifically, we are flying blind. When it came to musculoskeletal health, new protocols show that early intervention can prevent up to 60% of osteoporosis cases when treatment begins during the menopausal transition. One of the things that were not spoken at the conference, however mentioned in one of the conversations with one of the clinicians we interviewed, was the fact that women in domestic violence situations do not receive the same level of care when it comes to hormonal health and hormonal therapy. Why? There are many factors, obviously the circumstances in which they live, their environment, and access to clinicians that they deem necessary to support them on the journey. I really truly believe this is an untapped conversation that should be explored at EMAS and any other channels from this point on. EMAS also broke new ground in inclusive hormone health with groundbreaking research from Dr. Fabián Gómez-Giglio from Argentina on aging and hormonal decline in transgender people. Dr. Fabián Gómez research revealed critical insights and applied far beyond the transgender community. His findings on aging, hormone, and receptors show that as we age, hormonal therapy should generally be continued for life in transgender individuals with no recommendations to change doses in older patients. His key findings is that continuity of care and individualized approaches are essential for all populations.
Aquí tenemos a Dr. Fabián de Argentina. Pues muchísimas gracias.
Gracias a ustedes.
A mí me encantó hace un par de días lo que presentaste al respecto de el tratamiento que las comunidades, ¿cómo se llaman en español?
Bueno, hoy día se están denominando transgender and gender diverse, es decir, transgénero y género diverso. hoy lo que hablamos, como estamos en el Congreso Europeo de Menopausia, hablamos en pacientes de edad avanzada que están bajo tratamientos hormonales de afirmación de género.
Okay.
En los pacientes bajo tratamiento hormonal de afirmación de género, no hay más de un 0,3% de la población. Acá hay dos realidades. Una es que hay poca visibilización, puede ser que haya algo más. Y otra es que recién ahora ha disminuido la mortalidad. Pero en las últimas décadas no logra aumentar esa sobrevida. Se piensa que puede tener que ver con patologías asociadas a las terapéuticas hormonales, pero los artículos que hay hoy a la fecha, las terapias hormonales de afirmación de género, si bien aumentan en un grupo muy selecto, con una medicación muy selecta, alguna patología cardiovascular, no podemos decir que sea inocua, pero no podemos decir que estén contraindicadas. Y sí hay un aumento en la mortalidad a causas externas a los tratamientos hormonales. Concretamente, a situaciones externas como son las patologías de salud mental, suicidios, situaciones de agresión y algunas patologías infecciosas, HIV, o patologías oncológicas que no tienen que ver con los tratamientos hormonales, sino que, por ejemplo, con el cáncer de pulmón.
Y en su opinión, doctor Fabián, ¿qué se puede hacer a nivel mundial para que esta comunidad, que entiendo que en cada país va a haber un porcentaje de representación, se puedan sentir escuchadas, apoyadas por
Bien,
vida?
La equidad en la accesibilidad y la formación médica continua son las dos cosas que no podemos dejar de hacer. Y la formación médica continua lo exige esta comunidad, porque constantemente están viendo si uno está formado para poder empatizar y entender lo que a ellos les ocurre día a día.
Dr. Gomez's work emphasized that physicians must understand long-term risks while weighting them against the risk of mortality without hormonal therapy in vulnerable populations. This principle of individualized continuous care isn't just relevant for transgender health, it's a model for how we should approach all hormonal therapy. One of the most eye-opening presentations for me came from Dr. Sonia Sanchez Mendez from Spain, who examined how women are turning to social networks for menopause information. What was it like an aha moment for me was because so many clinicians in the room were oblivious to this fact. That really took me by surprise. I'm a consumer of menopause materials. I have a business on hormonal health. I am on social media. I know the conversations that are happening. I can see it. Yet these clinicians had very little idea. What she revealed should be really, in my opinion, a wake-up call for every healthcare provider. She presented research really showing how women are increasingly using social media platforms, as I know, to find the hormone health information they are not receiving from their doctors and clinicians. Here's a critical point. This isn't happening because women prefer getting medical advice from Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. It's happening because of clinicians' own lack of hormonal understanding and education. Hypothesis, and from what I know, is that women are so desperate for answers about what's happening to their bodies that they are turning to social networks because their healthcare providers can't or won't give them the information they need. And this, in my opinion, creates a dangerous cycle. Women seek information online, often finding conflicting or incomplete advice, while clinicians remain undereducated about hormonal health. Meanwhile, the $600 billion industry is more than happy to fill that information gap with marketing that might not reflect the best evidence-based care. Dr. Sanchez Mendez's findings perfectly illustrate why we need systemic change, not just in how we educate women, but in how we educate the healthcare providers who should be the first line of support. There were some incredible statistics and studies shared by various countries from the UK, Vienna, Germany, Norway, Australia, and beyond, really reflecting on the impact that menopause has on women as employees, but also on businesses. I interviewed Kathleen Riak from the University of Glasgow, who presented menopause in the workplace, the challenges and unmet needs. And it's really about reflecting on how the workplace is really changing. There is a 1.8 billion loss in productivity annually, with 75% of women reporting negative career impact during the menopausal transition. Here's what she had to say.
I wonder, are there companies already doing it? And the ones that are kind of not ready yet, what are the things that they're wondering as to why they should even bother?
So I think one of the big challenges is there's as soon as we hear menopause support or we hear any kind of additional support in the workplace is cost, and we know that we're entering into quite a tight fiscal environment in a majority of countries, and organisations immediately think this is going to cost me a lot of money. And the huge message that we want to get out there is that a vast majority of women can be supported through what we call micro accommodations. So micro accommodations are basically low resource, high impact solutions that are driven. They may already exist in your workplace, that you're offering them to other members of your workforce population, but you've not thought about how they might help or benefit menopausal women. They can be small, minor adjustments that are made that have very little effect on work as usual, but they signal huge commitment from the organisation that they're listening to women, that they want to support women. And really a lot of that is half the battle. Women feeling that they're being heard, that they're being seen, and that they're being supported. This is not about changing or restructuring the workplace with huge financial consequences. It's actually about making those small incremental changes that are not going to cost you, but are going to have huge benefits and outcomes for having a more committed and more productive workforce.
Yeah. What can women do today who might not show up at work and claim it on a sick day or sick leave day, but they are going through a just really hard day, either mood swings, depression-like symptoms, you name it? What can they do to really feel I can be in control, I can go to work, I can have conversations with my manager? What have you seen from your research that women might be likely be doing over the years to come?
I think one of the most important ones is perhaps deceptively simple. It's to know your worth, right? To know your worth in the workplace, to know your economic worth as a unit in society, and to know the contribution that you make in the workplace. Your employer is employing you for a reason. It's likely because you're good at your job, because you're committed at your job, because you have long-term ideas that you want to stay in that workplace and that you want to develop in the workplace. And if you start from the idea that you know your worth in the workplace, then it gives you a permission field to start asking for, well, what's going to allow you to, fulfill your potential to help your employer.
Companies like Over the Bloody Moon are already bringing the gap in the workplace. They're partnering with companies like Google, EasyJet, and Heineken to bring comprehensive menopause education to workplaces worldwide. This can be revolutionary. They use a menovest that lets managers actually experience hot flashes. When you feel what your employee is going through, the conversation changes completely. This is what they have to share.
Okay, how are you feeling?
I'm getting warm in my body.
0 to 10. How about 10 being like, I am so hot, I can't?
Not more than 4
Okay.
at this moment.
Okay. Is it supposed to get worse and worse?
Yeah, give it a time.
Wow.
1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, it will be enough.
What's happening?
Something is happening.
What's happening?
Not only in my back, I'm at chest too. I think 7 in 10.
Okay.
And warm.
So it's getting worse.
Yes.
So this happens in real life, correct?
Yes, basically what we've done is we did a research with women from our community, 20,000 women, describing how do they feel their hot flush to an alien. And then basically they described it. We try to reproduce this with the menovest. Of course, there is no single experience. No one fits all.
You look very uncomfortable.
I need a window.
Now, here's something we need to talk about that became glaringly obvious at the conference. We're dealing with a $600 billion industry when it comes to hormonal health. And the pharmaceutical industry has enormous influence over what treatments get promoted and what research gets funded. Women really need to become savvy consumers of health information. Just because a pharmaceutical company says something works doesn't mean the independent clinical evidence supports it. And just because a treatment isn't heavily marketed doesn't mean it's not effective. The researchers I spoke with, the ones not sponsored by pharmaceutical companies, consistently emphasize the same message. Women need to ask the right questions. What's the actual evidence? Who funded the study? Are there alternative approaches that might work better for your specific situation? This isn't about being anti-pharmaceutical. Many of these treatments are genuinely life-changing, but it's about understanding that in a $600 billion industry, marketing budgets often exceed research budgets, and women deserve to know the difference. The research from EMAS 2025 proves that when women are properly supported throughout their hormonal transitions, not just with hormonal replacement therapy, but also mental health, mindset, and lifestyle changes, as well as nutritional changes, they don't just survive, they thrive. Families thrive, their workplaces thrive. We're talking about transforming the lives of over 1.3 billion women worldwide. But this only happens when we bridge the gap between cutting-edge research and practical, accessible care. It happens when we challenge the $600 billion menopause industry right now, making some money out of your needs. When we demand that clinicians get the education they need to support us properly. If you're a healthcare provider watching this, I challenge you to seek out menopause-specific training. Stop declining to comments when patients need answers. If you're a woman navigating this transition, know that you deserve evidence-based care that honors your complete health picture. No pharmaceutical marketing disguised as medicine. If you're experiencing perimenopause, PMDD, or any hormonal transitions post-menopause, right now, please know this. You don't have to suffer in silence. Seek help, find your tribe, join the many communities out there supporting women like ours, where we are creating a space for women and families to thrive together.
That was EMAS 2025. We're going to see you at EMAS 2027 in Sweden. This is Ali Biense Grojo, the host of Living in Enlightenment and the founder of Bespoke. I'll see you very soon. Bye. Muchísimas gracias.
No, yo te agradezco a vos, porque que vos divulgues esto es importantísimo, porque esto tiene que estar no solo en el inconsciente colectivo de los médicos, que es lo que hacemos acá en el Congreso, sino es importante que esté en el inconsciente colectivo de la población.